Back here on the Dean Show, and we're talking about the lies about the last and final messenger sent to mankind, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And I wanted to have you please tell us, was there any, you mentioned the Crusades, and you also mentioned that this was a hijacking of the true teachings of Jesus,
yes,
who we love very much.
Absolutely.
We agree that he was one of the mightiest messengers of God. And tell us, is there anything in history that he points out that the Muslims, they did these kind of things?
You look at actually one of the most well-known Orientalists, Thomas Carlyle.
Wait, before you go on, I just want to take it back. Not that the Muslims did, I'm talking about when Islam, because Muslims are human beings, they make mistakes, but when Islam was implemented properly,
yes,
that I wanted to rephrase.
He made a very nice observation actually. He said if Islam was intolerant to minorities and other religions and Judaism, excuse me, and Christianity, how is it that Eastern churches that were separated from the rest of the Christendom at the time, they were considered heretics by Rome, by the Vatican, by the Catholic Church, and they were not supported by any stretch of the imagination. How come these churches are still standing nowadays? How come there's millions of Arab Christians and Asian and Christians living in Muslim countries today by the millions? Who supported them other than the tolerance of the general leniency and mercy of the ruling system of Islam throughout all these centuries? For example, when Ferdinand and Isabel came to Andalus, where the Muslims were there, you convert or we kill you, as simple as that. They eradicated Judaism and Islam from that part of the world. There are no Muslims there, big minority there. When Louis XIV mandated that, you know what, if you're not Catholic, we're going to kill you. So all the Protestants were prosecuted and made it a crime to be a Protestant. And as a matter of fact, you get testimonies from Christians in Eastern Europe thanking God for the rule of Muslims when the Ottoman Empire came and occupied, because now they can have tolerance and religious freedom, because the Muslims would not, force you to convert to their religion, would take the due taxes as much as the Muslim has to pay his due taxes, and you have religious freedom. I have in the book, The Lies About Muhammad, the Patriarch of Antakya in Turkey, thanking God for the Turks, meaning the Muslims, for their leniency, because now they can breathe some religious freedom from the oppression of other Christian worlds that ruled them before.
This is known in history now.
Absolutely.
You cover all this in your book.
And I documented it here.
A few more points before we come to the end. You mentioned the tax. They say, look, Islam comes, it belittles you, it subjugates you, puts the jizya on you. What do you got to say?
First of all, it's a form of tax. Like a Muslim pays tax. A Muslim is obligated to pay 2.5% charity tax. So it's not that when you're non-Muslim, you pay taxes and Muslims live tax-free. Everyone pays tax. And the matter of fact, non-Muslims paid less tax than the Muslims. Why? The 2.5% is from whatever unspent assets that I have. I could be a billionaire and my unspent assets could be limitless, and so is the 2.5%. The jizya for the non-Muslim is 1 dinar, which is equivalent to about $100 per year, per the able to fight in the family. The rabbi does not pay, the priest does not pay, the little kid does not pay, the woman, the children do not pay, only the man who is able to carry a sword, and it's $100 per year.
You're paying like what, 30–40% of your wealth right now. What are you complaining about?
Exactly. So, it's paying their due taxes without any subjugating. You live the same exact way, and Islamic law, you steal from a non-Muslim, you steal from a Muslim, whatever it is, the law is totally blind to that. So the jizya tax is actually one of the brightest moments of the tolerance of Islamic law when it's dealing with minorities or non-Muslims.
Totally opposite of what you're getting.
Of what you hear, yes, totally. Opposite to the truth. That's the norm when it comes to people who bash Islam.
And we really want to thank those sincere, humble, open-minded, sincere people who want to know the truth, who aren't blinded by this, that now they're really wanting to hear what we have to say, not letting CNN, Fox News, or Johnny Spence, whoever his name is.
Robert Spencer.
Yeah.
And actually I want to point to something very important. Good parents, Muslim mothers and fathers come to me and say, my son came back from school and he denounced Islam, and the reason is he heard one of these absurd allegations that he can answer with one sentence, as simple as one ayah or one hadith of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, but he did not know. It keeps lurking in their mind, and they have no answer. All of a sudden they're in college or have economic freedom. I don't want to be a Muslim anymore. And if that is said, what's even worse is that sometimes the parents themselves, good, worship and praying Muslims, do not know the answers, and they're simple. So I beg the viewers, pick up a copy, learn it for yourself, give it as a gift to your children. Your children, when they read it, they would love it, because whether they tell you or not, they're bombarded in public schools and colleges with these absurd allegations. And I cannot blame the average American, because we did not tell the average American otherwise.
Yeah. Few more points. We're almost coming to an end. It's signaling that we're almost out of time. Another thing that some of the opponents of Islam, they'll mention that now we deceive, that we lie, that this is just that Mickey Mouse Islam that we're trying to, because we're under the heat and the pressure, and now it's okay. Islam lets you lie to deceive the people. What do you guys say about that? Have you heard this?
Yes, they come to something called taqiyya.
Yeah.
Taqiyya
That's
has
what it
nothing
is.
to do with Islam.
Nothing to do with Islam.
There were some factions of Islam that totally deviated from the message. Even their ideology sometimes came into blasphemy and kufr, and they were outlawed by Muslims. So they came up with this thing, very small minority and historically insignificant, that they started with this thing, you know what, do not show your ideology of blasphemy to the average Muslim, so you are not, prosecuted and, chased out of the city. So the bashers of Islam, and including Mr. Robert Spencer, even in his website, makes that taqiyya, which is a criminal behavior and a deceptive behavior, as if it is the normal behavior of the 1.6 billion Muslim. Why? So when people look at Muslims nowadays and say, they're innocent, they're good, they're my doctors, they're my good friends, they're very good people, he has an excuse. No, it's mandated in the religion to deceive you. Are we deceiving the American public by having 25% of the doctors that heal Americans being Muslims, even though we're not 5% of the population? And if we deceive for the purpose of what? What have the Muslims done with that deception? Show me. We have 1400 years of history. They were always the most truthful, the most honest when Islam was applicable, and that taqiyya thing is such a small minority in some of the factions of the Shiite Muslims, not even Shiite Muslims themselves. And it's a man-made thing, and it's not in the correct hadith of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ or in the Quran. How dare you say that this is Islam? It's not in the quotation of the Prophet of Islam or the Quran itself.
Blatant lie.
Absolutely.
And how do you see most of these, and we're coming to an end, a close, most of the things that this Mickey Mouse Spencer, whatever his name is, I'm sorry.
Robert Spencer.
Johnny Spencer, whatever his name is. Tell us, how does he or anyone else, what do they usually do? Do they misquote? Do they cut and paste? Or what do you see?
They go to the most unreliable resources, like some people that have nothing to do with the Prophet or Islam, even people that are being executed for blasphemy, and quote him. His best source is Ibn Ishaq, who is someone who, whatever story that he heard about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he put down out of good intentions. But it's like someone who goes to a newsstand and get the tabloids and the New York Post and then the New York Times and the Washington Post and put them together. Some are very truthful and some are outright lies. The scholars that came after him, Al-Bukhari and Muslim, told us exactly which one is the true quotation and which one is not. He only takes the satanic verses, ones, the crazy ones, and say that, oh, this is Islam. Does not quote the 6 major references of Islam, mutilate verses, take verses out of context. I'll give you an example. The torture that the early Muslims received on the hands of the pagans of Quraysh, never mentioned in an entire book, 200 pages, about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. How they were tortured, persecuted, starved and killed, not mention that. So when the Muslims fight, as if the Muslims were, aggressors and so on and so forth. And I can go for days about it. It's really horrible.
So much to cover, and you cover all that, all 155 false allegations you cover in your book,
yes.
The Lies About Muhammad.
Yes.
Get the book. Get the book. Thank you very much for being with us.
Jazakallah.
May God Almighty Allah reward you also. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Deen Show. And thank you for being sincere. Open mind, humble heart, and you want to know the truth, and you came to the Muslims to learn the truth. But you know what? It's really important that you understand this first major foundation bedrock of Islam, because all these other things, they've been there and they've been refuted, and these are childish things that people do who aren't trying to really bring people together, who aren't really striving for peace. But we want peace. And how do you get peace? You submit to the owner of peace, the one God. And that's what Islam is all about. Is submitting to the Creator, worshiping the one God, the same God of Jesus, Abraham, Moses, and all the messengers of God. They call people to the same way of life. They called people to acquire peace by submitting to the owner of peace, the one God. Not 4 in 1, 3 in 1, 6 in 1, not a man or a woman, but the creator of man and woman. If you can understand this, this is the main message of Islam, to worship the creator and not his creation, and to do righteous good deeds, to do good actions, to develop yourself to be the best human being. This is what Islam is calling the human being to do. And if you can dig this, you can dig Islam. Keep coming back here to the Deen Show. We'll see you next time. Peace be unto you.
In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, I seek refuge with Allah, the Lord of mankind, the King of mankind, the God of mankind, from the evil of the whisperer, who whispers evil in the hearts of men, who withdraws from his whispering in one's heart after one remembers Allah, who whispers in the hearts of mankind, of jinn and men. I seek refuge with Allah, I seek refuge with Allah. Have mercy on us.